Welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast. Today, Resident Evil 2, Astrobot, Trails of Cold Steel, and everything else we've been playing. Get ready, it's going to be a good time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast that is fluent in gaming. My name is Arnie, and I will be taking over hosting duties today with my sultry voice as always. Before we get into anything, please remember to follow us on iTunes, YouTube, any podcast app that you listen to this show on. And more than anything, please, if you haven't already, leave us a review and a rating on iTunes. It's the best way for shows like ours to sort of grow and get noticed, and for other people to discover the amazingness that is currently being pumped into your ear holes. And as part of that amazingness, we're going to move on to introducing my co-hosts, who I could not literally do this show without. First up, from the picturesque land of the Yukon Territories in Canada, we have Paul.
I mean, you could do the show without us. It would just be the loneliest podcast.
That's true. That's accurate. I could definitely do the show without you.
It'd be the Sultry Gamer podcast.
Be an ASMR that'd be terribly edited. And then from the lands of Helsinki, Finland, we have Masa.
Moro, mitä kuuluu?
And I feel like we haven't had you on the show for like a month now, so I'm very happy that you're finally here.
That's why I just, my greeting was in Finnish, because it's been so long since I've been on that I forgot how to speak English.
Oh, God. And then rounding out this podcast panel that we have for today's episode, our very good friend who we're so happy to have back. We've been wanting to have him back for a while now. The bearded wonder, the leader of the coffee cult, as he's known on Instagram, Dennis, a.k.a. Strilly Vanilli.
Guten Tag.
How are you doing today, Strilly?
Thank you very much for having me again. I'm psyched, as always, and I'm pretty fine. Thanks.
Good.
I hope you guys are doing good, too.
Yeah, we're doing great. I mean, we're here, we're recording a podcast, and in honor of your return, we have prepared a very special topic in that we prepared nothing at all, and so we're going to talk about what we've been playing lately.
I was kind of expecting you to say that we are going to talk about nothing.
What a nihilistic honoring.
I was expecting like a surprise.
Yeah,
I was
me
like,
too.
whoa, I thought we talked about the topic before and it was going to be almost nothing.
We're talking about the Ocarina of Time. No, we're not going to do that. We're never going to talk about Ocarina of Time. Never.
Okay, let's go.
No!
I'm good.
And how much we all hate it.
Oh my
boy.
God.
Oh boy.
Oh wait, is that not what we were talking about?
That's the way you want people to write reviews about you?
I'm going to get those reviews one way or another.
Dennis, negative reviews are also reviews.
That's
Exactly.
true. Negative press is also press. That's exactly
We don't care
true.
about the content of the reviews. We only care about the number of them.
That's
I want to
the
make this
spirit.
show popular enough so that when I inevitably destroy it, it'll be amazing.
And go out with a bang. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, so we're going to be talking about what we've been playing lately. I feel like we are doing these about once every month or two now. And I really like these because while it's fun to talk about like prepared subjects and sort of dig into stuff, I feel like when you get around other collectors and other people who like playing video games, the thing that you most talk about is what you've actually been playing. So I feel like these are the sort of discussions that other people who play games a lot really enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. You know, every time I hang out with my friends, it's always, what we're playing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing with you guys, even like in our chat groups and stuff. It's, what you've been playing, Arnie, what Yakuza game Masa's been playing, and so on and so forth.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah. And so with that, I think I want to start with Masa first because I haven't heard from him in so long that I am genuinely curious about what he's been playing. So Masa, what have you been playing lately?
I even forgot that he's a host, listening to the recent podcasts of yours.
Well, since we already kind of like, name drop the Yakuza and stuff, maybe we should start with Judge's Eyes.
Oh, nice.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So a couple of months ago, I actually imported a Japanese copy of the game, mainly due to the whole scandal that happened.
Yes.
Can you fill me in? I don't think I have heard about this.
Okay, so what happened is that the main villain in Judge's Eyes, I'm gonna explain what Judge's Eyes is, but yeah, Judge's Eyes is the latest game by Ryoga Kotoku Studio, which is the Sega studio making all the Yakuza games, basically.
Yeah.
And in the West, the game is called Judgment, and it's coming out in June, actually, so very soon, like in a month and a half. But yeah, anyways, what happened in Japan was that the game actually came out in December. It sold fairly well, like a bit over, 200,000 copies. But then I think it was in February, maybe late February or March. Kind of forgetting my months now. But yeah, anyways, so the main villain is actually was played by a guy called Pierre Taki, who's actually he's like a variety talent in Japan, with a very long career, like a 30-year long career. And he's done, he's got a band, he does stand-up comedy and, all kinds of like variety and stuff. But yeah, what happened to him was that he got caught with a little bit of nose candy, which you would think that's fitting because he's, playing a fucking Yakuza boss in that game. But the thing about Japan is that when it comes to drugs or illegal drugs, they don't fuck around. And shortly after Taki's arrest, but they also, like Japan, like they really don't fuck around because they actually, like they even erase your, like, past.
Yeah.
So, for example, in Kingdom Hearts 3, he's voicing, one of the characters and he's been replaced.
His voice was patched out?
Yeah, like I think they re-record the lines with some new actor, and then they sort of release. I don't know if they patch the game and just replace it, or if they release new versions of the game with another voice actor. I don't know how that works.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's no new like re-release, like a physical re-release.
Yeah.
Yet, at least. But yeah, the game got pulled off the shelves right away, which actually, I mean, obviously, like what happened after that was that for the first time in a few months, the game actually returned to the Japanese, like, sales charts. And yeah, I mean, now it's gone. And on eBay, it's all of a sudden, a very sought after game.
Well, yeah, you gotta get the original release with the original voice actor on it. So it's like $600 or whatever they're wanting to charge for. Yeah, I mean,
but like, that's the thing about it. Like, even like, I mean, I've been able to play the game with Pierre Taki in it, but I know that maybe in the future, like, if I do believe that I have like automatic updates on my PS4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one day, like, that dude is just gonna disappear and it's gonna be replaced, which was already like shown, because, yeah, the Western game, like in the West, the game is still coming out in June. So what they did was that they actually, got a new voice actor, obviously not for, the English dub, but, the Japanese actor is, of course, now new.
Yeah.
And they replaced his face basically in the game.
Yeah. Well, I remember people crazy. I remember people being concerned that it wouldn't even come out in the States after this all happened. Like, people were freaking out.
Like the localization team, like they didn't know what was gonna happen. Like, and like Judgment is, like, Sega is giving the game quite a big push because they are even adding like the English audio to that game, which they haven't done with Yakuza titles since, well, the first Yakuza on
PS2.
Because originally, like, I mean, of course, I collect Yakuza related games, And originally I was a bit like, well, I'm just gonna, pick up just size ones. It's cheap. But I mean, of course, this happened, and then I panicked, and I went on eBay, and he's like, buy it now.
Does the Japanese release have English subtitles?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
So that's the funny part. Like, okay, I'm not super far into the game, and that's for the reason that, okay, I know a little bit of Japanese.
Yeah.
Not enough to actually play like an RPG. And also, there's no English guides for that game. Like, for example, there's Yakuza Ishin, which is the historical Yakuza spin-off game. And there's an amazing guide for that one. And also, all the cutscenes have been translated. Like, there's translated videos on YouTube. Like, that's a game, like an import game that you can totally play without knowing Japanese. But here, what I'm actually doing is that I have a guide in Japanese, and then it's Google translated. So,
which, as we all know, is perfect one-to-one translation. No,
yes, exactly.
Grammatical errors, no syntax problems with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even. I mean, it's kind of like a very like a traditional guide, so that it doesn't really like it tells you what to do. But it doesn't mention what's actually happening in the story.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
I'm playing the game, like I know what to do, but I don't know, like, I mean, I do know the main story, but yeah, I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
because it's a bit different than, okay, so it is very much like Yakuza. It's using the Dragon engine that was used in Kiwami 2 and Yakuza 6.
Yeah.
It takes place in Kamurocho. It doesn't have any, like, returning characters, but it is set in the same, like, Yakuza universe still.
Okay.
And it feels a lot like, I mean, it's a Yakuza game, but they have added some elements since the guy who you are playing as is actually like a private detective.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Detective Pikachu. So, yeah, it does like, yeah, sure, you get to punch motherfuckers in the face every once in a while. The battle system is still, or the fighting system is still fairly similar. There's some like new kind of moves. And the character himself feels different compared to like any Yakuza characters. But yeah, the unique aspect of the game is that, yeah, since you are playing as a detective, you do have lots of like tailing, you get to go through evidence. And I know I haven't made like far enough, but I know that there's actually like some courtroom action.
Oh, nice.
It's a shame that Ozzy isn't here.
Objection!
See, that actually sounds really, really appealing to me because I was kind of afraid when they first announced it that it was sort of gonna be like Yakuza, but you play as like a cop, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they were just gonna essentially keep all the same stuff, but be like, you're not a Yakuza. And I was like, I don't know, that sounds fun.
It wouldn't work.
Because Yakuza's fun, but I like that they're sort of integrating like a whole bunch of new mechanics that like they're putting their spin on.
Yeah. Like, it feels like to me as a Yakuza fan, like it feels like, I don't know, it feels like home, but it kind of feels like a new home kind of. Like, like it's familiar, but there's like enough new stuff that is like fresh.
Gotcha.
So I'm definitely like looking forward to the Western release. I'm not sure if I'm actually gonna finish the Japanese version because having to use the Google Translate guide makes everything a bit slower.
Yeah. But that's good.
And also like since I know that the release of the game is only, a month and a half away, so I will probably still play it for a bit, but I think like the story is interesting, so I think I might just wait for the full game or the Western release.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm glad that it was just so crazy when it happened, because I think a lot of people were surprised at the lengths that Japan has gone to sort of scrub this guy from history, essentially.
It's remarkable.
Yeah. Like,
and so,
even like he was actually starring in a morning like drama. In Japan, they always have like these like super popular like morning dramas.
Yeah.
And that show canceled.
Oh my
All
God.
the CDs of his band
Oh
pulled off the
My
shelves.
God, just because of
Man,
some
they didn't even write him
bums.
off the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, he basically doesn't even exist. Like, the entertainer doesn't exist. Like, I mean, I'm not sure, like, he's probably gonna get some kind of jail sentence.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even after that, like, he's not gonna come back.
Well, and that's the thing that I think sort of freaked people out about the game, because when you see this stuff, it becomes very clear, because I'm assuming all this stuff that he was doing was making money. And so, like, the fact that they're so willing to be like, well, we have the show and it's probably like doing okay and it's probably making money, but we're just going to cancel it right out. You know, it wouldn't be that much of a leap for them to be like, well, we're just not going to release this game anymore. You know what I mean? Or at least like delay it severely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is insane, because that would never happen here. Like,
Yeah, like, I was just thinking about it today. I was like, fun fact, I'm a big rap fan. And then it made me, like, this whole, beer Taki case made me think about it. I was like, yeah, holy shit, like, rap music wouldn't exist anymore
At all.
if it was, like, in Japan.
no. You think of all
Or maybe
the,
we
like,
would have, like, Christian rap, but that's about it.
you think of, like, even, like, sports wouldn't exist. Like, you think of every, like, athlete who's ever been involved in, like, any
it's
sort
like,
of...
say goodbye to John Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, John Jones, like, even like in the 80s, the NBA.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the 80s was like the golden age of cocaine, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and basketball players, so many careers ruined because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's interesting. On the one hand, I admire the sort of dedication to that one philosophy, but on the other hand, the insanity of sort of erasing somebody's entire career over pretty much anything is crazy to me. Like, that they would go to those lengths. But, you know, it is what it is. Like, culturally, I guess that's what their situation is like. But
yeah,
they just shut their eyes. It's like if you walk on the streets in Japan and if the streets are so narrow, that's a fact. Actually, it's a fun fact. If you walk on the pedestrian on the sidewalk, and there's so many people that you cannot dodge somebody or evade hitting into somebody. That person who is walking towards you will see that too, because, you know, you've got your eyes in your head, you look forward, and you see, okay, I'm gonna bump into this person because I can't go someplace else. It's just too crowded. Then they just look away, bump into each other, and go on walking. Without saying sorry or anything. They just pretend it didn't happen. That's a fact. That's what they do on the streets. And
That
it's
sounds
weird,
a lot
but
like Finland.
really?
Yeah. Unless the people are drunk, then, you know, they will start throwing insults, but if they're sober, then yeah.
that's like the opposite of Canada, let me tell you. Because in Canada, like, we cannot apologize fast enough. Like, for the lightest touch,
that.
it's like, oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
And then you hug at the end.
Yeah, and then we sing "Oh Canada," the national anthem, and we move on with our day.
I love that.
That's crazy. But what else have you been playing, Mas? I'm assuming besides Judge Eyes, you've been playing something else.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a big JRPG fan, but
that
I
so?
almost
You don't say.
Yeah. But I almost never actually like replay JRPGs because they're long as fuck.
Yeah.
I know, dude. There's so many
a
I
lot
want to
of these
replay,
games,
but
it's
like,
one playthrough is like 120 hours. Like, who has time to play a game like that multiple times? But what happened to me was that Trails of Cold Steel, one of my favorite, one of my personal favorites. I wouldn't call that game like a universal, JRPG classic, but it's one of my personal favorites. But yeah, it recently came out on the PS4. Of course, I had to pick it up. But what's great about the PS4 remaster is that there's actually save transfer. If you have played the game on the Vita or the PS3, you can transfer your save to the PS4 game. And that's what I did. Like, I finally did the New Game Plus run, which was considerably shorter than the first playthrough that I had. It still took I don't know, maybe 60 hours. Cause it's also great that, obviously, if you're doing a New Game Plus and then you get to, carry over all your items and levels and so on.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I was, OP for the majority of the game. And then, what is also great is that they, from the PC version, they added the turbo mode. So, it makes, the game I think it's twice as fast. And then the fights are, I think, 4 times faster.
Oh, wow.
So, you can just cruise through the game.
Yeah.
And I have to say, so the main reason why I, ended up playing it again is that, so the, remaster for Trace of Cold Steel 2 is coming out next month. And then later this year, there's gonna be Trace of, Cold Steel 3.
Yes.
It's finally coming out and I still can't believe it. So my plan, which will probably fail, is to play through all the related games in the Legend of Heroes series.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
Dude, that's 100% failure rate.
Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen. Unless you quit your job. Is that the personal stuff that you were talking about earlier? The real life issues? Like you quit your job because you have to play all the Legend of Heroes games?
Might be.
That's an accurate assessment.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I recently played through Cold Steel 1 because you recommended it to me, and I really enjoyed it. So when I saw that they were having the PS4 remake, I was like, one, ouch, because I would have preferred to play it on PS4 if I had the option. But also, I'm very happy that they do the save transfer. I feel like if you're remaking a game, especially if it's a JRPG on a different console, you have to have save transfers. It should be mandatory because
absolutely
asking people to rebuy a game they've already bought is, it's harsh, but people do it because they want to support and people are fans and they want to see the new content and whatnot. But asking somebody to replay a 100-hour RPG again is insane. So the fact that they give you that option, I think is really cool. And I wanted to know, because I'm interested in getting it myself, if you've already played through Cold Steel, is it worth getting the remaster just to play through it again? Is there extra content or? Okay,
so there is zero extra so I'm lying a bit, technically there's no extra, new extra content, no new, dungeons or enemies or characters.
Yeah.
But they did have, they do have, the, when Exceed, when they released the not PS, but PC ports for, Cold Steel 1 and 2, they voiced a lot of lines, which weren't voiced originally.
Okay.
Cause you know how in that game you often have these scenes where you have, I don't know, half the scene might be voiced or half the characters in the scene might be voiced.
Yeah.
So the game has 5,000 newly recorded voice lines. But besides that, no, there's nothing really. The game is actually in 4K, which is nice. That's great. There's the turbo mode and then the additional voice lines, but that's it.
Honestly, I would say that since you can do save transfers and there is a turbo mode, I would say that's probably worth it for me just to be able to do the New Game Plus run, because the thing about New Game Plus runs for me is that once I've gone through all that with a JRPG, most of the time I don't want to look at it again ever, because it's just you spend so much time with it and you become so involved with it that you're just kind of mentally exhausted by the end of it. But if I can play it again and pretty much double the speed, that's kind of appealing to me. But so we're going to take a small break and then we'll be back with Strilly's game. so we're back, and I'm gonna defer now to our very special guest, Dennis. Dennis, we don't get to talk to you nearly enough, so I'm very excited to know what you've been playing lately.
Yeah, me too.
What I have been playing, apart from some handheld games, which I don't really need to mention, maybe the most fun one was the Rub Rabbits, which I have posted on my Instagram too. It's nice. This super weird and funny mini game title on the Nintendo DS.
I'm gonna have to stalk you on Instagram right now because I have no idea what game you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I do. And when I was in Toronto, last time I was there, I went to a game store and I saw it there, and I remembered what you said, Dennis. And if it wasn't for, oh my God, this is going to sound awful, maybe, but if it wasn't for all the water damage on the back of the box, I would have bought it immediately.
I don't think that's awful.
Okay.
But I do think this is going to sound awful maybe is a good tagline for this entire show.
I saw the front of the box and I was all hyped, right? And it was cheap too. And then I turned it around and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. It was cheap, dude. It was like 15 Canadian dollars, so like €1.
But what I did want to ask, so is it like a minigame collection? Because I'm also not familiar with this game.
Yeah, it's just minigames. It's every level is one minigame that's like, it's maybe, it feels a little bit like a WarioWare game, but...
I was about to ask you if it was kind of
By
like
the way, is that game by Sega?
Yes.
Because, I think there's another, like, rubbing game.
Yeah, the Rub Rabbits is the sequel.
Project Rub. Yeah.
Exactly. Project Rub or,
Feel the Magic XXXY.
Oh my God, I do know this.
Yes,
I have seen that game at GameStop, but I was a bit like, okay, since I don't want to be known as the guy who plays like questionable games, I'm not going to pick that game up.
Masa, you play way more questionable games than that. It looks and seems
There's
very...
no evidence of that.
I just assume that.
I only play wholesome family games and punch motherfuckers in the game. In the game.
In the game.
In the face in Yakuza.
Well, it's a fun title. I mean, the juxtaposition of the guy who wants to get the girl and he has to do stupid stuff to impress her. That's basically everything there is to it. It's not that lewd. It's just ridiculous and funny what he has to do. And it's so ridiculous and made me laugh, not like out loud, but it made me smile a couple times while playing on the train ride to work. And it's a short title. It's fun and it's really creative in the use of the touchscreen on the DS. So that was kind of fun. I can recommend this game to anybody who wants to have some short, quick fun on the Nintendo DS. Maybe if you're not playing your DS anymore a lot, pop in Rub Rabbits or Feel the Magic XXXY, aka Project Rub. Put the DS like on the shelf next to your toilet and play one mini game each time you're on the loop. So that's a good game for that.
I feel like a game called like Project Rub is the best toilet kind of game.
No.
Oh my God.
It's weird because I now remember when Paul said Feel the Magic XXXY, I was like, I do know what this is now. And it's really weird because I feel like that was one of those games. I could be wrong, but I feel like, was that like an earlier DS title? I feel like those were, yeah. And so that sort of era in like the first year or two of the DS was always very weird for me because I feel like what people remember the most is just like all these games that came out that really try to like shoehorn in touch controls and like blowing into your DS and like making noise and stuff like that have not, like, I don't even want to say they didn't age well because I feel like they were sort of dead on arrival. Like when they came out, they weren't good, but there were like in that sort of malaise of like all these touchscreen games, there were like a few games that made like really interesting use of the touchscreen and like the touch controls.
Yes.
And I feel like they get lost in the shuffle a lot. So I'm glad to know that that's one that like is worth checking out.
Yeah, I absolutely second that. That's what I would say about this title. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's so fun. And if you're into ridiculous Japanese kind of fun, the music and the sound effects, oh boy, really, guys, you gotta try those. They are really, really funny and memorable. So I know you would dig those.
Nice.
Well, I also feel like we kind of railroaded you into talking about this game. You were going to talk about a different one, and then you mentioned this one offhand, and we just went off on it. So
it's
what was the other
true.
one you were going to mention?
Yeah, it's true. I wasn't gonna talk about this, but it's okay. Well, what I, of course, have been playing since its release in February, or was it end of January, even, I believe, was, of course, the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yes, I've been wanting to get your thoughts on this because we had you on our Resident Evil episode. So, of course, I need you to talk about this.
Quite a short game.
Well, if you're really good at it, then you can finish one run in a couple of hours, like in 2, 3 to 4 hours.
And you have been playing it since January.
Yes, but I've only made my first playthrough, and I just started my second playthrough.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
And
that's the limit amount of time I have right now.
Yeah,
I know, right?
And even
He sounds a little bit judgmental. He's got a
You
kid.
really need to get a Switch. Like, there's gonna be a bunch of Resident Evil games releasing on the Switch very soon. So you really need to get a Switch, man.
Yeah, I know.
well,
And
the
also
thing is,
Nintendo, if you're listening to this podcast, like, you need to hire me.
Yes, and you need to send Strilly Vanilli a Switch.
Yeah,
Yes.
that as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad the show
please.
exists to make demands of Nintendo.
Get your shit together, Nintendo. Send out some free Switches to your favorite Resident Evil fans, which is not even your franchise. Yes, so I have been playing Resident Evil 2, and it's really amazing. It's a remake, well done. It's just right along the lines of the first Resident Evil remake that was released on the GameCube back in the day. And it's exactly, quality-wise, it's exactly the same kind of level. So it looks amazing. It has the Resident Evil engine, it's called RE engine, I think. The one that they used for Resident Evil 7, or that they made specifically for Resident Evil 7, and which they also used in Devil May Cry 5 recently.
And it looks fantastic.
It absolutely looks fantastic. Water, light, shadows, shaders, particles. It's really incredible. And it looks really realistic. And, for the purpose of the gory and bloody, nature of Resident Evil 2, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So
and Leon's hair looks amazing.
Oh yeah, he looks like a boy band leader. It's amazing. Even more so than in the original. No, he's great. Leon is great. Claire is great. Ada is great. Of course, as in the original, there are 4 main playthroughs if you count them all. It's Leon A, Leon B, and Claire A, Claire B. So if you finish the first A scenario of any character that you want to start your game first with, you unlock the B scenario of the other character. That said, I played through Leon's A scenario first, and now I started Claire's B scenario. The B scenarios are a little bit different, so they kind of put the spotlight on the other person's perspective.
Okay.
And if you then switch around, like if I were now to start the game with Claire's A scenario, it would be fairly similar to Leon's A scenario. So I guess, having the limited amount of time to game, I will stop after finishing the Claire B scenario, because I know the rest is just gonna be kind of the same, just with the other person.
With a different perspective.
Dennis, I have a question for you.
Please.
Okay, so I know that Resident Evil 2, like the remake, it has gotten amazing reviews. It's probably like, an amazing game as well. Like, I mean, you already said that it's amazing. But would you recommend that game to someone who isn't really into the horror genre?
No, I wouldn't, because it's really creepy. It's proper creepy. I played it. The thing is this. So I played this, with Johan in the living room, like sleeping or playing, something in his crib or anything. And like, I don't know, 15 minutes into the game, my wife was like, Dennis, can you maybe play this with headphones? Because like, of all the, head splattering and zombie groaning. And I was like, yeah, you're pretty right. I shouldn't be, Johan shouldn't be in this audio environment. So from that point on, I played the game with headphones, but most of the time, or sometimes at least, Sarah was sitting next to me on the couch doing something else. And, so I only played it with one earbud in my ears. And so I didn't even have the full stereo effect.
Yeah, gotta love that mono audio.
Yeah, gotta be old school. And the fact is, when then, for example, Sarah went to bed and I went on playing the game, I could pop in the second earbud and it got 10 times creepier just by the full stereo effect. So if you're not into horror games, this one's probably not for you.
I am a self-professed coward, and so I have not gotten this game because these are too much for me. Like, I cannot handle, and especially now in like if the pixelated lickers like scared the shit out of me, I know the like 4K HD ones are definitely going to scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, I gotta admit, like, the reason why I asked that question is that I'm not a coward myself, but I was asking for a friend who happens to be Arnie.
That's very thoughtful of you. Yeah. Although you now called us his name, so it's, well, kind of obsolete. The fact is, I think, the camera perspective is different. It's an over-the-shoulder camera, like in Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, it's not fixed anymore.
And it's not the fixed kind of camera, which makes up for a lot of scary atmosphere, because you always entered a room in the original Resident Evils with the fixed camera and you didn't know what was behind the camera, especially if it was facing your character. And then if you heard something, you didn't dare to move an inch forward or peek behind the camera for it to switch angles, because you could then face a zombie like 10 centimeters from you.
Yeah, that is a thing that we talked about in the Resident Evil episode, how like when they had fixed camera angles, they could make you look at whatever they wanted you to look at. So I feel like it was much more effective in sort of setting up scares that the developers wanted you to experience.
Exactly. And the point that you just said, Arnie, that the lickers now being in HD and fully rendered and everything, super creepy and gross. I didn't really see the first appearance of the licker because he I don't know, he jumped out of the ceiling or something. And I was looking at, I don't know, some item in the corner and I just heard something and turned around and then he jumped right at me, which was scary enough already, but I didn't really get the full effect of me walking down that room and seeing the licker fall out of the ceiling or something. So I think with a fixed camera, this would have been even creepier.
Yeah. And then I've seen the videos of people getting chased around by Mr. X, and a hard pass on that for me.
I hate him so much, but you can kind of avoid him well once you overcome your fear of him. If you don't see him as a threat because you can't beat him anyways, you just have to run. And then it's just, sometimes he's a nuisance, he's just annoying, and sometimes you can just run right past him or outsmart him. Like you lead him one way, then you turn around and walk around a table or something, and then you get the advantage of this like way that you run. And I don't know.
Is he one of those enemies that's gonna, pop up like no matter what, or is it like one of those kind of enemies that, like, if you just like stand in the same place for long enough, then he's gonna kind of like force you to move?
No, he's the Nemesis kind of character, like in Resident Evil 3.
Right.
Nemesis, sometimes he just comes. Although that's not exactly true. In Resident Evil 3, Nemesis was scripted when he showed up, as far as I remember. He was perfectly scripted. In Resident Evil 2, the remake, Mr. X, or aka the Tyrant, at some point he just is there, and then you outrun him, go hide, find another place to go, and then either way, if you're unlucky, then he comes chasing after you, And if you're lucky, he'll just stay away for a couple minutes. So it's rather random. And that's the reason why at some point it was just annoying, because like I entered a room. I know I needed an item from that room, or I need to do something in that room. And then I heard Mr. X, and I thought, oh, fudge, yeah, you gotta run away from him now. Then you're gonna run far away for him to not follow you anymore. And then at some point when you are far enough, then you go, okay, good, he's gone. But I'm gonna have to go back to that room now. And
hope that he's not there.
Yeah, or on the way there. So that
do the enemies respawn in that game?
No, not always.
No. Okay.
Like sometimes you go someplace, kill enemies, and then you trigger maybe a cutscene or something, or trigger a boss fight. And after that, when you re-enter areas that you have already been, then sometimes new enemies can emerge, but they don't respawn.
Right.
That couldn't work out because you have so limited amounts of ammo.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
And you have to backtrack and stuff.
Yes. And, that's actually, I think what the remake made really well was the fear of not having enough supplies, which is exactly the thing that a good survival horror game needs to evoke in you. This kind of fear.
Yes.
That you look into your revolver, and you see, okay, I've got 4 more bullets. How far can I get with that? Yeah. And that makes you wet your pants, because you know behind the next door there could be a liquor or something worse.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
It's sort of the opposite of what Silent Hill does, in that Silent Hill doesn't give you anything. And so you're always vulnerable, you're always sort of exposed. But Resident Evil, I think the balance they're always trying to do is like give you enough that you can succeed, but give you not so much that you don't feel like nothing is a threat to you anymore.
Right. So very well done, Capcom. Thank you very much. It's got a great replay value with all the unlockables, collectibles, extra modes, harder difficulties, 4 different scenarios with endings and stuff. It's really, really great.
I wonder if they'll
I haven't heard a bad word about it at all.
Yeah, me neither.
I was wondering if they'll do a VR version of it like they did for Resident Evil 7.
I don't believe they will, because it would require quite the reworking.
Yeah,
on the gameplay part, on the game mechanics part. So I can't seem to think of a way that they would do that, without having to rework too much.
Yeah. And
so now the question is, when they do the next Resident Evil game, are they going to do it like 7, or are they going to do it like the 2 remake, right?
I feel like they've
both been very successful.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I feel like they would do it like 7, because I feel like Resident Evil 2 remake has been very successful, but I feel like most of the game mechanics from that were just lifted from Resident Evil 2. And I feel like they've sort of started moving away from that style of Resident Evil to, they sort of had that style of Resident Evil for a while. Then 4 came along and changed a whole bunch of things. And then I think with 7, they went back to, a more horror-centric approach.
Well,
yeah, and plus it's VR friendly too, with that, with the first person perspective and so on.
Yeah.
By the way, Dennis, now that the remake is out, is the remake so good that it makes the original game completely obsolete?
Well, I'm gonna have to say yes in regards to if you're a player who doesn't really enjoy older games. If you say, I don't like the graphics, it didn't age well, or I don't like the pixelated models and so on, then I say, the remake is good enough for you to experience what Resident Evil embodies, or Resident Evil 2. But of course, for me as a nostalgic person, Resident Evil 2, the original, can never be replaced. Because it's the thing and the reason why I fell in love with this game in the first place. And if Resident Evil 2 came out nowadays, it would be a good game, of course. But the positive feeling I have or had playing this of course, stems from the nostalgic feelings that I had playing the original.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the nostalgic ones and the collectors, the new remake is great because it's a cool revisiting of the game, but it doesn't replace it. But if you're a youngster who doesn't play PlayStation 1 games anymore anyways, then go ahead, play the remake.
Nice. Anything else that you've been playing outside of Resident Evil 2?
Yep, I've been playing a lot with my wife, so if she's not sitting next to me watching me play something, or she usually doesn't, she then reads a book or something, but if she's next to me and we want to play something together, then it's basically, everybody who knows my Instagram knows what I'm going to say right now.
Yep.
Overcooked.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I have so this game, very quickly, just came out on PS Plus as one of the free games, and I downloaded it. And I've been very interested in playing it because you've been talking about it so much. My question is, I am chronically alone. And so I'm, what I've been wondering is this game worth playing single player, or is the sort of experience best done with somebody else?
The latter.
Okay.
Definitely, because
it's not even playable single player, I would say.
No, it is. It's just super boring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I gotta say, I've been really curious about that game because it's been like one of those like big, like Switch indie titles.
Yeah.
But I think I love my girlfriend too much to play that game with her. Because I have heard that is one of those like relationship ruiner games.
It totally is.
Let me tell you something about that. I was gonna go on about this specific part of that game anyways. Mm-hmm. So, here's the thing. Overcooked is, yes, it is very dangerous for friendships or relationships if you play this co-op, because you're gonna end up screaming at each other, yelling at each other all the time, because of course your tactic is gonna be the best one, and if the other one you're playing with is gonna screw with that tactic, you're gonna yell at each other.
Yeah. A quick note for people who don't know what Overcooked is.
Maybe
you're basically
we should say that
running
first.
a restaurant, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, where you're a chef in a restaurant, mm-hmm. and you prepare food. You get your orders in. It's like a top-down game. You get your orders in. Each level has different kinds of recipe styles. So mm-hmm. let's say you've got soup in this level. Then you get your order in for example, for tomato soup. That means the order comes in a small like item box, or item box, totally the wrong word, like a receipt in the top left corner of mm-hmm. the screen, and the receipt says tomato soup, and then it says the ingredients, like 3 tomatoes. Okay, you take the tomato, chop it up in pieces, and then throw it into the pot. Once it's cooked, or all 3 tomatoes are cooked, then you put it on a plate, bring it out. You serve it. There's some kind of assembly line you put the food onto, and then it goes out to the waiter who delivers it, so to say.
Yeah.
So
you have to work together to like accomplish each step of that process.
Yeah, or you can say you're only doing those kinds of recipes, I'm doing these, or I'm gonna do the cooking part and you're gonna serve the food, wash the dishes, and I don't know, throw new logs into the campfire or something, or blow the barbecue. So you have this air blow thing, and then mm-hmm. you can heat up the barbecue fire. So there are different other steps that you have to take sometimes in order for everything to work out.
Yeah, that seems very stressful to me already.
Yeah,
just in hearing you describe it.
I'm like, I definitely don't want to play that game with like any person that I actually like.
The fact is, it can be super stressful, but if you take your time in each level, and we have managed to do this mm-hmm. very late in our playing cycle. Like, we finished the first game, and halfway through the second game, we started doing the following. We entered a new level, and then we just checked out the whole scene. Where are the ingredients? What kinds of recipes are coming in? So what dishes are we going to have to make? Where is the assembly line? Where are the obstacles? Because each level has some kind of obstacle scheme. So sometimes, the whole level moves and things, like the counters that you work on, that you can chop your food on or that you can cook on, the stoves, they move around the area. And then sometimes you just can't reach them anymore and your body only reaches them. So you have to switch your jobs. If you talk about who does what first, then the whole scenery, the level design changes all of a sudden. And then the other person has to do that. So that's stressful. Or sometimes there's some kind of fire spurting device dropping flames somewhere. And then you cannot move through a certain lane or part of the level because you have to extinguish the fire first. So it's crazy. And then if you enter a level and think about a strategy that you want to use in this level, then you restart and go on about that. That kind of works out pretty well. So if you just go in and stress out like headless chickens, then it doesn't work.
I feel like
it doesn't work, but it's a lot of fun though. I do
That's
like
true.
the headless chicken aspect of it, where we just go in and try to kind of organically figure it out. Don't get me wrong, it often ends in disaster, but it's hilarious.
It is.
It's
a fun game, especially with at least 2 people. If it's 3 or 4, it's even more chaotic, but it's also more fun.
Oh, you can do it up to 4.
I would recommend.
Yes.
Pardon?
Oh, okay. I thought it was 2 was max, is what I thought.
No, 4 people is max. And the fact is, the first Overcooked doesn't have online multiplayer, but the second one does.
Okay.
So the first one is
Yeah,
just local co-op.
Like on all platforms?
Oh, I don't know. You mean crossplay between Switch and PS4, for example?
Yeah.
I don't know about that, actually.
No, I think Sony
Well, yeah,
generally
definitely not
frowns
with
on that.
PS4 because, Sony and all that.
Yeah.
Just your description of it is already giving me anxiety.
It's so good though.
And
it's so good. And I agree with Dennis. You want at least 2 other people to really fully get the experience of it. It's really it's really kind of the essence of couch, co-op and video game fun with friends. 'Cause it does the thing. So it does the thing that board games do, which is it forces you to talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Very often you're playing a game I remember a long time ago when Diablo 3, I don't know, some kind of expansion or something came out, and I was at a buddy's place, and he was playing with 2 other guys, and I was watching Netflix, and it wasn't the most exciting night for me. And so they're playing the Diablo expansion while I'm watching TV, and all I hear is click, 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 click. It's just the mouse. Just 3 mouses, click, 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 click. And it was like this for hours. And every once in a while, maybe every 20 minutes or something, one of them would be like, oh, that was good. And then click, 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 click. So sure, I guess it's kind of fun if you like addictive gameplay, I guess, but Overcooked, I think, is just way more fun because you're forced to interact with the people that you're with.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was going to say, it seems stressful, but it also, I agree with you, Paul. I think that sort of stuff can be very entertaining. Hilarity ensues when, things are not going well. So I could very easily, see, doing very well on a level only to, have it all, be destroyed right towards the end and be, sort of yelling at each other and the hectic nature of trying to save a sinking ship.
Yeah, that happens all the time because you have to reach a certain amount of points to gain 3 stars. There are 3 possible stars, and once you beat the game in every level with 3 stars, then you unlock a 4th star, which is super difficult to reach. We haven't done that. But
to be honest, now that I found out that there's actually online play, I'm a bit curious about like how, like should the region free gamers
Oh my
do like
God.
a stream or something?
Well, I mean, if
Oh,
we
that
want to
would be
never do the show
hilarious.
again.
Yeah, I was like, that could be the last episode. I mean, or that would be the last episode.
I would watch that.
You would
Not
watch.
because I would want to
you would
watch you go
failure.
down. No, it's that will be fun. You should try that. Maybe don't stream it though. Too many curse words.
Then people
Oh,
will
man, it would
privately
be
wonder why
nothing
the
but-
show just
Mayo.
ended after this episode. They haven't released anything in like a year. What happened?
What happened to those? I'm gonna write Paul. Hey, Paul, why haven't you been in touch with the other guys? No response.
That tomato soup. That tomato
Yeah.
soup.
No, it's really, it's very fun. And we played through all of the DLC content, which include new level, sceneries, so to say.
Hmm.
So, there's this Surf and Turf DLC for Overcooked 2, which adds up beaches as level, designs.
Nice.
And you can make smoothies, fruit smoothies, and you can make kebabs with, different ingredients. Then there is the seasonal update, which, included Christmas levels. That was super fun. You had to make hot cocoa with marshmallows and waffles. That was amazing. And each download content.
Dennis, please stop. I'm getting hungry here.
I'm already hungry. I'm
See-
so looking forward to the cake my wife made yesterday.
See, here's what I love about doing episodes like this and having guests like you on, Dennis, is that on the one hand, you play Resident Evil 2 Remake, which is like insanely gory and like violent and scary. And then on the other hand, you talk about how much you love playing Overcooked 2 and making hot cocoa with marshmallows in it.
Well, it does incorporate some sort of violence. It's verbal violence.
That's true.
But,
there is a bridge there is a bridge.
Once I have my Switch and you have me back on the episode, I will probably talk about how I play Resident Evil 8 and all the goriness of it. And afterwards, I'm going to talk about Animal Crossing on the Switch.
Hey. If they
So
ever
those are
announce
the-
anything about it.
Yeah, announce anything like really hands-on. They just announced
Yeah.
something that they're going to talk about in the
But
near
see-
future.
If Final Fantasy VII Remake got an announcement, I have hope for Animal Crossing Switch.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So I think that's pretty much it for Dennis, unless you have something else you want to touch on.
Nope, those are the games I have been playing.
All right.
Rabbit! 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 Rabbit!
And we're back. Paul,
Boom.
tell me what you've been playing.
Video games.
I'm glad that we've got no doubt now about whether we're back or not. That's a very impactful return. So yeah, last time we did this episode, I touched on Astro Bot
did.
the VR missions for the PSVR, and I gave it like 2 minutes. I was like, good game,
Mhm.
and then I'll talk about it another time, right?
Yes.
Arnie, Dennis, Masa, that time is now.
Oh boy.
I'm actually like really looking forward to this because I also have Astrobot and I also haven't played it in a while. Because it's not that I don't like the game. I think it's amazing and it truly is like a groundbreaking platformer. But the whole hassle with the PSVR headset, like I just can't deal with it.
I have it set up in such a manner that the barrier to entry, so to speak, is quite low. Like I've got it all hooked up, I've got it plugged in, and I've got the helmet off to the side on a table, and the wires are such that they are not in the way. So when I do want to play it, it's literally just picking it up, putting it on, and playing it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's
right?
cool. Yeah.
And I think in order to get the most out of it, that's kind of what one has to do. It's going to sound silly, but like just the act of plugging it in, like that's an additional barrier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's one
definitely
that,
is.
yeah. But which sounds ridiculous, right? Like we're not exactly bench pressing 300 pounds here. You're literally plugging in a cable, but it's a barrier. So the way I have it set up is so that I have as few barriers as possible. And then that way, when I do want to play a PSVR game, I'll just pick it up and play it. The only thing that actually keeps me from playing it, and it's gotten better lately, but I told you guys, I don't know if I mentioned it on the show. Did we talk about Drive Club VR?
We did briefly.
Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, Dennis, you may have heard this or you may have not. Ozzy convinced me to buy Drive Club VR for the PSVR, and I did. It went on sale. I cobbled together $10 and I picked up Drive Club VR.
Which is like €1.
Pretty much, yeah. In Europe, they actually pay you to play it, whereas in Canada, you still have to pay a little bit of money. So I put the helmet on, or the VR helmet on, and I played it, and I was like really nauseous within about 30 seconds of playing it. Like it was horrendous. So I took it off. I deleted it off the PS4. That's one Happy Meal that I won't be able to buy because I spent the money on Drive Club. Fair enough. But the long-lasting effect of this is that now I'm like a dog that's been trained. Like just the act of putting the helmet on, my body's like, I know what's going to happen here, and it starts getting sick.
Yeah.
I have the same thing actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
for
good,
me,
'cause I
it's
thought it was
really
strange.
random. Cause I mean, I do have the headset. I have a few games like, Astro Bot, Tetris Effect. I have, is it PSVR Worlds? And I was, like, Astro Bot hasn't made me feel sick or nauseous or anything. And even in, like the VR Worlds, like, you have a few different very short games. And I was fine for the most part, but then I played the bobsled game, and that killed me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was really weird. Like I was actually like watching some like VR videos on YouTube, and that was also like something that my body just couldn't handle it.
Just reacted.
Yeah, it's like once you've been burned and you're near the fire, like your body's like, no, thank you.
And those are the worst games.
And here's a tip for people who might have just gotten like a PSVR. Like the moment you start feeling sick or nauseous, like just stop using it. It's not going to get better. Yeah,
no, it's not. You're not going to fight through it. You're gonna get knocked out.
Well,
for sure.
and those are the games like Drive Club are always the worst because especially racing games in general, if you have like a full view and you can freely move the camera, like having something that in your head is moving so quickly, but your body is stationary is like the key to immediately wanting to vomit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's the same
much.
with me. Exactly that way. If a VR game has me standing on one spot and I can do things and move my head, that's cool. But if my character is moving forward, it's gonna, I'm gonna get sick. And
so the thing about Astrobot is that it mitigates all of this. Astrobot, like Masa said, it never made me feel sick at all. And the game does this. It's really, I don't know, man, it's pretty clever. Like your character does move forward, like in Mario 64, for example, right? But most of the action takes place within a stationary background. So your little robot will move around and he'll collect stuff and he'll jump on enemies and, bop them and kill them and so on. But most of that action takes place within a stationary area.
Yeah.
When you do move forward, it's very slow. It's very easy. So not once did I ever feel ill playing it. It was really good in that way.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like, it's just, you can tell it's one of these games. It's got a lot of care put into it. Like the character designs are super cute. There's a lot of attention to detail, a lot of funny stuff. And there's a lot of like extra kind of VR, involvement, right? Like there are levels where you literally headbutt obstacles. So like, you know, you move your head forward and then you hit something, which awesome, right? Like I didn't know for the past, 30 years of playing video games that I wanted to headbutt something. Now I don't know how I live without it.
Well, see, this is the thing, is that I've been seeing so many videos of people saying exactly what you're saying. Like, this is the game to get on PSVR. Like, this is the one game that sort of makes VR seem like a legitimate option for gaming in the future. Like, not just as a gimmick, but as like a part of the experience. And so I'm very curious to know like what it is about this game.
Like, I
It's
would
just
have
very
to agree
different.
with that. Because, like, okay, so that wasn't the first VR game that I played. Because I did, try out like Tetris Effect, and some demos and VR worlds before that. But, it's just a really well-made game. And people have been saying that Astro Bot is the Mario 64 moment for VR. And okay, so if that was just a normal platformer, I would be like, well, it's above average, but it's nothing special. But the VR aspect and how it's built, it just like that made me like a VR believer.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever going to replace the conventionally designed video game that you play on a screen.
Yeah.
But it's something that's really entirely new, because like when you're controlling the character, you're controlling him in a sort of 360 degree environment. You can turn around and you can see around, like you can literally like bend over, look around corners to find secrets and stuff like that. It's really cool. And the platforming controls are very, very forgiving. It's a platformer, but it doesn't follow the trend of, more and more difficult. Like, for example, there are parts in the game where you're walking on really narrow pathways or even like tight ropes, and you literally cannot fall. You can
and also
jump off.
there's no lives or game overs.
Exactly. Yeah, you just keep on playing. It's a very, it's just a very nice kind of forgiving game.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, it just makes such cool use of the VR. Like, if you've got a PSVR and you don't have this game, I really think you're missing out. It does some really cool stuff. And just as importantly, it solves, it seemingly solves some issues that people like me will have who, drive Club VR and maybe want to kill myself.
Like, I would say that if you own a PSVR, like, absolutely, like, you must get that game. And, I think in most regions that game is like very cheap, like under 20 euros. So like, I don't know, like 100 Canadian dollars.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not sure, like, I love that game. It's amazing, but I'm not sure if it's like good enough to, get the PSVR just for that game. Or how do you feel?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not like a system seller per se. Like, if you told me I had to pick one game to play on the PSVR, honestly, right now, it would be Tetris Effect.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Beat Saber.
Oh, right, of course. How could I forget Beat Saber?
I want to play Beat Saber so much, but none of my friends owns it, and I don't have VR, so I can't play it.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun. I've gone over it already in our Game of the Year episode, but man, it is super fun. I can't believe I forgot about it. So yeah, Beat Saber would be the one. Tetris Effect would be the other. Like, the thing about Astro Bot is that it's a fun little experience, and it is groundbreaking in its way, but it's not like addictive and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a fairly easy game, a nice little experience. Not something that would necessarily sell the system, though, at least in my opinion. And I mean, I'm biased, right? I'm not a big fan of platformers to begin with.
Yeah. All right.
And even me, like, I mean, I'm a big platformer fan. But even for me, like, I really like that game, but I still haven't finished it. I mean, that's mainly due to the fact that, like, setting up, the PSVR is a bit annoying, especially, like, after I found out that, okay, how it works is that you actually, like, have to, plug in your, connect the PS4 to PSVR via HDMI, and then like the HDMI, whatever, blah blah blah, goes through the PSVR into your TV, and it doesn't, for example, it doesn't support HDR through PSVR.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I didn't know about that obstacle. That's a really unfortunate misplay, I think, on
So
Sony's
that's
part.
why most of the time I don't actually have my PSVR like plugged into my PS4 or my TV.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
since
makes
I don't
sense.
have a 4K TV, it doesn't move the needle for me. Like, I just have it plugged in all the time.
Yeah.
And then that way I can just slip it on whenever I want to use it. That's really unfortunate because it's a nice little piece of tech. Like, it's not quite as gimmicky as a lot of other add-ons, you know, like, you know, going back to the Super Scope 6 and the Menacer and like, you know, all the various fishing rods you could get for like the Dreamcast and whatever. Like, those are all gimmicky. They're good for one game or two games, and they're good at what they are. The VR is definitely next level, more of a gimmick. I think it deserves a little more love, but maybe next generation they'll come around on it.
I think the real thing is going to be once the tech becomes more affordable and the price point goes down a little bit. I think it's almost there to where people, because right now I think the price point is at a level where even if you're curious about it, you could easily talk yourself out of buying it because
100%.
It's essentially I think now it's like around $200 US, and you can bundle it with some stuff. But at that price point, I could easily be like, well, if I want to spend, you know, $50 to $100 more, I just buy a Switch.
Also,
I just
like
buy
one
Xbox
thing that I
One.
would like to mention is that if you are a PS4 owner, and if you, like, let's say you have a 4K TV, and then if you expect, like, if you get a PSVR and expect like crystal clear graphics, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, no.
No,
And
not even close.
That's like that was something that, like, I did not know about that beforehand, like, before I, bought my set.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is there something wrong with the headset? Like, what is going on? It's like very, like, the graphics.
It doesn't look that
good.
well. Yeah, true.
Yeah. And that's like really, like, I played, VR Worlds, and there's this, like, one, like, kind of a gangster game. And I was like, man, this would be really amazing if the graphics were better, because the blurriness, like, really, like, it ruined the immersion in that case. But I kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe the next gen will be like the generation for VR.
Well, I think it will be, in a sense, because I think the thing is PSVR is sort of the stopgap between if you want to spend like $1,000 and get an HTC Vive or a Oculus Rift or something, and like you want to spend $50 and get like a cardboard like thing and slide your phone into it. You know what I mean? Exactly. But the thing is, I think that PSVR is finally seeing like games that are getting like YouTube views and stuff like that, like stuff like Super Hot, like Beat Saber, like Moss, like Astrobot. Like, these are the games that I think people can now point to and be like, okay, I want to get VR, like, but what games can I get for it? And now there's actually like a decent sized list of games that people can point to and be like, you get this or this or this. And there's variety, because before it's like, oh, you can get this flight simulator thing, or you can get this thing where like you look around and like use your head to like move the level or something. But now it's like, no, there's like fully formed like games that don't just use VR as a gimmick, but like integrate it as like an important part of the gameplay.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, what's great about the PSVR is that, okay, so the headset itself is becoming more affordable. Like, I think when it launched, it was like around like $400 or euros, and now it's down to $200.
Yeah.
And I mean, you usually get these bundle deals with a bunch of games, but also the games themselves, like, you can find lots of VR games for, 10, 15, 20 euros, including, Tetris Effect and Astro and so on.
I think the key is going to be whether it's backwards compatible with the PS5.
Yeah.
Because we've got the PS5 on the horizon, and it's going to be backwards compatible with PS4 games, and that's all well and good. But if you tell people they need to buy a new VR
headset,
helmet,
oh no,
it's gonna be
It's
a
going
no-go,
to kill its
right?
technology right away.
I actually
Yeah.
do believe that, okay, so take this with a grain of salt, but I do believe that they did mention that it's gonna be backwards compatible, like the PSVR headset will be backwards compatible,
yeah,
or work with the PS5, but at the same time, like what I'm wondering about is that like eventually there will be a PS5 VR headset.
oh
But
yeah.
if I buy that, will like these like previous gen VR games, will they actually look better, or will it still be like they were PS4 games?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably for like 3 years from now, I would say. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm surprised. Honestly, I am legitimately surprised that Sony has supported it as much as they have. I honestly
too.
thought that like this would be a thing that like 2 years down the road they'd kind of abandon.
Yeah, because Microsoft never even released their VR set.
Yeah. So what else have you been playing, Paul? I know you've been playing. I know you just haven't been cooped up playing Astrobot for 2 months.
No, I mean, like, look, if I'm honest, I'm still mostly playing Etrian Odyssey Nexus.
Of course you are.
But I've already talked about that, and nobody wants to hear me go on about Etrian Odyssey. So, with that said, the other game that I've been playing, it's a game that I got like 3 years ago or something. And every, I would say 8 months or so, I come back to it and I put like 20 or 30 hours in, and I just get obsessed with it. And I play it on Steam, but it's available on Xbox One. So, you know, for all the console fanatics who listen to this show and aren't really PC gamers, hey, at least we're covering a console. It's a game called Dungeon of the Endless.
Never heard of it.
I don't know if
Never
yeah,
heard.
Me neither.
I'm assuming none of you have heard of it. So it's made by Amplitude Studios. They've done a few other games, often with the word endless in the title, like Endless Legend, Endless Space. Endless Space is probably like their big release. But Dungeon of the Endless is just way, way different. And one of the reasons I like it so much is because, like Beat Saber we mentioned earlier, it offered a gaming experience that I've just never had before. So I'll kind of just give a quick description of it and then, you know, tell you why it's one of the best games I've ever played. It's, if I was to, you know, give it like a genre description, it would be a roguelike dungeon exploring tower defense game. Doesn't really make any sense when I describe it like that.
Yes.
But basically it's an overhead view, pixel art game. The pixel art looks really good too, by the way. And I know pixel art now is kind of starting to, it seems like it's starting to get overused a little bit, but even with Dungeon of the Endless, it has like a unique style, even in that kind of sub-genre, you know, sub-pixel art kind of style. In any case, overhead view, you start off in a room, and the room has a crystal in it. And the crystal is what provides energy, power, right? So you take your party, which is, you start off with 2 people, but then it can expand to 4. And you open up doors to other rooms one by one. And every time you open up a door to another room, there's a chance that a mob of monsters will appear. So your characters can fight the monsters, but more commonly, what happens is every time you open up a room, you can build resource gathering items or resource gathering equipment and defenses. So that's kind of like the main thing of the game is there's 3 types of resources: industry, science, and food. Industry is what allows you to build stuff. Science gets you better tech, so you can build better stuff. And food levels up your characters or saves them if they're getting killed, right? So you go room by room, you build resource gathering stuff, and then you build defenses around it, all in order to protect this crystal. So once you find the exit to a particular level, usually there's about 13 to 18 rooms per level. Once you find the exit, your characters have to go back, pick up the crystal, and then take it to the exit. What happens then is that a horde of monsters comes in and attacks. and the person carrying the crystal is moving super slow because they've got this heavy thing on their back, right? So yeah, so it becomes this really cool, tense thing where all these defenses that you've set up over the course of the game have to be used to protect your character who's picking up this crystal and trying to take it to the exit. Anytime the crystal is destroyed, whether it's at the end or sometime during gameplay, the game's over and you have to start all over again.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It doesn't sound like my cup of tea.
See, this sounds stressful in the exact opposite way as Overcooked.
Yeah.
In that it kind of reminds me of like a turn-based strategy game where you could spend like a very long time on a particular level only for it to be like destroyed right at the end and then have to start the whole thing all over again.
Yes. However, unlike other roguelike games, you do carry stuff over.
Okay.
So you start off with 2 different characters, but there's a total of like 20 different characters.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know the exact number, but it's pretty high.
Yeah.
And they all have different abilities and different stats and so on and so forth. Like you have some characters who will be better at, helping you research or collect research resources. You have some characters with huge machine guns that are better at fighting monsters and so on and so forth. And like with any game, a well-balanced party is kind of the key to winning, right?
Yeah.
So as you progress through the game, if you find a character, you open up a room and, there's a new character I haven't seen before. So you recruit that character. And if you survive 3 more levels, then you get that character permanently.
Oh, okay.
And you can start off the beginning of the game with the character. So there are rewards even if you've pumped 2 hours into the game and then you die, right? Like you can still get stuff and not feel like you've wasted your time.
Yeah.
It's
sort of like, I mean, what roguelikes are, right? Like putting enough time into it to eventually amass like, obviously more skill, but also more resources at the beginning to get you a little bit further each time.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The resources in this case would be more characters, so you have more variety and so on and so forth. But the resources that you start off with are often pretty much the same, right? There's a lot of luck involved because as you open up rooms in each level, you can get extra resources or extra bonuses, or sometimes you get nothing.
Yeah.
And if you get 2 or 3 rooms in a row where you get nothing, then it really becomes an uphill battle. So you finish the game when you complete 12 levels. So often, and you carry resources from level to level too, right?
Yeah.
So if you're building up your industry resources and you haven't used them all on a particular level, then you carry the unused ones over to the next one.
Okay.
And then it becomes a game of balance, right? Like, well, do I really want to build this extra gun, or do I want to try, surviving and carrying it over to the next level to make the next level easier?
Yeah.
And then it becomes sort of a game of like, how much can I build where I can just barely get by?
Yeah.
In order to collect as much as possible.
How far have you made it?
The answer is, I've beaten it.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah, I've beaten it a few times. I would say I beat it once out of every 10 times that I play.
Okay.
And oftentimes you'll make it to like the 10th or 11th level, and then you'll get crushed.
See.
Like sometimes there's mobs of monsters, and you're like, "Oh my god, what do I do about this?" And then you just watch the kingdom that you've built crumble into ashes. But it's fun. I swear. I swear I wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't really good.
Yeah. See, roguelikes are just I've always been intimidated by them in the sense that like the idea of investing that much time into something to have it sort of be reset for me is tough. It's tough for me to get into.
Same here.
And that's cool, and I respect that. But for those of us who are courageous, who strive for new challenges,
and I can tell that you do like this because you also like Dead Cells, and Dead Cells is also a roguelike, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a roguelike with also kind of punishing difficulty. Yeah. I see the trend here. I understand what you're saying, Arnie.
That you're a masochist?
It's not... Yeah, a little bit. And these games aren't for everybody. But, you know, hey, I have to talk about it. It's what I've been playing.
That's true.
Of course.
And for those of you who have that itch that needs scratching, you know, if you want to try something that is completely different from anything you've played, because I've never played anything like Dungeon of the Endless.
Yeah. It
and
sounds
ever
like...
since I found it, I've never played anything like it since.
Yeah. What I was going to say is it sounds like not your typical roguelike, clearly, because it has like all these mechanics that make it a little more interesting in at least just hearing about it. It's not as straightforward as like, you know, just sort of run and try to collect gear until you die. There's a little bit more strategy to it.
Yeah.
By the way,
100%.
Paul, how did you actually like discover that game? Because it's not that common that like none of the other people on this podcast like that we did, like we were all like never heard. Like, how did you even discover that game?
On Steam. Yeah,
Okay.
like it's like when, you know, it's like YouTube, man. Like you'll find videos you never imagined could have existed just because it's on your recommended list.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I was on, or I don't even think that's how I discovered it. Like, I love me a roguelike game,
Yeah.
right? Just generally speaking. And so I'm reasonably sure that what I did was I went on Steam and I searched for roguelike games. And then I found this one and it was really well reviewed.
Yes.
And then I put it on my wish list and eventually it went on sale. And here we are.
Oh, this game
But on
came out in
Xbox
2014.
Oh yeah, dude, it's been around for a while.
Uh-huh.
On Xbox One, I think it came out in 2016.
Okay.
And it's like $10 or something. So, you know, it's a fairly, if you've got an Xbox One, it's a fairly low risk proposition.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Masa has an Xbox One. Perhaps he would like to try it.
Yeah, I'm like the only person on this podcast who has an Xbox One.
I think that's accurate.
But I
No, Ozzy's got one too.
Oh, that's
Ozzy's
true.
got one
yeah,
too.
to tell you the truth, I use it just as much as Arnie and Paul do, for example.
Oh, Lord.
Anyhow, if you like this kind of game, if you like something that's completely different from anything you've played before, Dungeon of the Endless, I highly recommend it. I do understand, however, if you're a sniveling coward and you want to stay away from it, that's cool. You know, I won't judge you, but I totally will.
I am a self-professed coward. So I have no,
I heard.
I have no trouble with your judgment.
I'm not a coward, but I'm just too lazy for this kind of hassle.
Is there
And I'm
anything else you've been
just
playing
gonna
lately?
pretend that I don't even have an Xbox One.
Yeah, there you go.
That-
Nah, man, I'm good. Like, there's a few other games I've been playing, but we should probably take a break now, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good. All right, one more break, and then we'll be back to wrap this all up. And we're back. Paul, you had something you cannot wait to tell our listeners before we get to my games.
Yeah, there was a key thing about Dungeon of the Endless that I forgot that Arnie was kind enough to point out to me on our break. Even though it's called Dungeon of the Endless, it does end, and and it is like a manageable amount of time. Pretty much, yeah, but in a good way. Your average game will last anywhere from about half an hour to about 3.5 hours. So it's not like your typical roguelike, like, for example, Dungeons of Dreadmore, the classic, where you could pour, 20 hours into your character and then bam, you're done.
Yeah.
No. Your average game won't last more than about 3.5 hours, I would say.
Yeah, and that completely changes things for me, because, like,
That's
I
way more
could sink
appealing,
an
Yeah, Paul,
hour
you just made a
into
lot more
game.
appealing, actually.
Yeah. It's really a key fact that what I should have done was spent less time making fun of you and our listeners and more time actually making the game sound good. So I apologize for that. I mean, the making fun of not so much, but definitely the timing I apologize for.
All right.
So, Ani, what have you been playing?
I know. I guess that leaves me, finally. Mine is, I think it's going to be pretty short. I've been playing a few things. One of the things that I didn't talk about when we did one of these the last time was I played through Grim Fandango, finally.
Oh,
Nice.
Which is a game that I've been wanting to play for years. I want to say like 5+ years at this point. Because I really liked point-and-click adventure games when I was younger, but the LucasArts Double Fine sort of era kind of passed me by. Because I was really into consoles at the time, not so much computers. But Grim Fandango was fucking hard, man.
Oh yeah.
I actually just recently, I used to be in the point and click games back in the day on PC, Full Throttle, Day of the Tentacle, the Monkey Island and all those games. But yeah, Grim Fandango was something that, I don't know, for whatever reason, I missed out on it.
Yeah.
But I did recently buy it digitally on the Switch. Haven't played it, but now I'm a bit like, damn, should I even play it?
I will say, it's worth playing for the story and the characters, but I used a guide extensively.
Yeah, the puzzles are hard in this one.
Yes. They're punishing, especially early on in the game. You can get by pretty easily. The game is without counting the time it takes you to figure out puzzles. The game is relatively short. I think it's only 4 chapters, something like that. So if you have a guide, you can probably beat it in an afternoon. But the actual story and going from the beginning to the end and everything that happens in between is so much fun and actually legitimately funny. The writing is, that I would recommend it just as an experience, not necessarily as a game. But as the experience of playing it, I think is really fun. So that was one. And then another one that I recently...
Wait. Yeah, I still have... Still have one thing to mention about that. Yeah, when I said that I played a lot of point and click games back in the day, at the same time, that was before I actually had access to internet.
Yes.
And, access to all these guides. So I didn't, actually finish a whole lot of those.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, same for me.
So I think if in the future we will have an episode about point and click games, then I'm probably gonna play through Grim Fandango.
Well, that's the thing too, is that these games were at the height of their popularity when, as Paul likes to say, I had infinite time. And so when you used to get stuck, it was well, I guess I'll just try everything all over again, click on everything on every screen. But I have no patience for that now. It's funny to me, I used to actively try to avoid guides as much as possible. I was I don't want to go on GameFAQs. I want to figure it out, because there is satisfaction to figuring something out, except when the logic in the puzzles is so insane that there's been times when I figured out a puzzle in a point and click, and I've just been this was not worth it. The series of clues that I had to put together to come up with this insane solution to this puzzle was not worth my time. But now I'm just I'll try a few times. I'll try everything that makes sense to me. And then if none of that works, I'll just be I'm just going to look it up.
Yeah, same here.
Can you imagine me playing those games back when I was 10 or 11, 12?
Yeah.
When my English wasn't really that great back then, and I didn't have any guides. And I mean, yeah, sure, I had infinite time, but still, some of those games were really challenging.
Yeah.
Especially when you actually had to type in command, it wasn't just clicking.
Oh yeah. No.
Oh yeah, dude. The old Sierra games oh man. Yeah.
No. I was point and click. That was the extent of my descent into that sort of genre, the text parsers and all that stuff. I didn't get into that.
Might be for the best.
Yeah.
I mean,
they didn't really age that well. No.
No, it didn't. It was fine for the time because there was nothing else. But nowadays,
yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of fumbling in the dark.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that there's a new Leisure Suit Larry game coming out soon. I'm gonna be really disappointed if it doesn't have, like if you don't have to type anything in that game. Because that's one of the reasons, like that game, helped me study English back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That explains a lot, actually.
Yeah, I was just about to say that it explains all those questionable games that I play nowadays.
That one got me. That was good. But the other game that I recently finished that I had a lot of fun with, another short one, I don't want to like mispronounce the title of this, but it's Monster Tale or Monster's Tale. One of those two.
Okay.
Tale, Monster Tale. But it's a DS game. It's Metroidvania meets, I want to say Pokemon, but that's not really accurate. Basically, the conceit is you are this little girl who gets like transported into this world. They don't really explain how, but you find this monster egg that hatches into a monster. And so he's like your sidekick. And basically what happens, the way the game is split up, top screen is where you are, like where your character is, run, jump, fight, do all that cool stuff. Bottom screen is where the monster goes. And so you can move the monster between the top screen and the bottom screen. When it's in the bottom screen, you get items that enemies drop, and the monster, depending on what the item is, it could be food, it could be a toy, it could be workout equipment. And when he uses
workout equipment,
yeah, like dumbbells, it's weird.
All right.
But basically when he's down there, he interacts with the items, and when he uses an item, it ups his stats. So it like gives him, if it's a bike, it'll give him more speed. If it's a dumbbell, it'll give him more strength. If it's food, it'll give him more stamina. And as he sort of interacts with these items, he gets more experience. And the real meat of the game comes when the monster gains enough experience that it evolves. So the monster has 3 forms, child, teenage, and adult. And each of those forms have a branching tree of evolutions depending on what form he's in. So like he'll start in basic form, and that'll branch out into 2 different forms. One of them could be, I don't know, really good at fighting, and the other one could be really good at healing. And then depending on which one of those forms you want to focus on, those forms then branch out into 1, 2, or 3 other forms. And I think,
and you do have, you can guide the monster to the form that you prefer.
yes, well, you can switch back and forth between any form at any time. You're not, you're not sort of stuck like on a path when you pick it. You just have the ability to like, I want to switch to this form now, and I want to switch to that form now, depending on what it is, because there's also, the monster also comes in 3 colors, blue, red, and green. Green being earth, blue being water, red being fire, and they have sort of a rock, paper, scissors effect on battles. So like enemies also come in the 3 colors. And so if your monster's blue and the enemy's red, like the monster can attack the enemy and it'll have more of damage. And the opposite is true. Like if you're an element that the enemy is strong against and they hit your monster takes more damage.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I actually have to say, like, that game, like, Arnie, like, you sold me on that game, and I'm actually checking out a Wikipedia article about the game, and turns out that it was never released outside of the US.
Yep.
And once again, in Soviet Finland, we never got that.
Yep. But
I can't remember, is the DS region free?
I think so.
The DS is region free, yeah.
But
okay,
but
so it's all
apparently,
good.
like, there was supposed to be a remake for the 3DS, but I guess it never happened.
Nope, got stuck in development hell. They were originally also planning a sequel that never got made. But so, you know, mechanically, what the game boils down to is like, you sort of craft this monster however you want to help you. And then you sort of control, like, do you want the monster on the top screen helping you fight and using abilities to like heal you and stuff, or do you want him on the bottom screen using items and like growing more powerful? So there's that sort of balance back and forth. But the game is just like, it's pretty short. I think I spent like 8 hours on it and I beat it. So it's not like something that's going to take up a ton of your time, but it's really fun. Like, it's just like, you know, you get the typical Metroidvania tropes, like your character learns new abilities as they go through the game also. So like you got your double jumps, you got your, you know, ranged attacks, you got different little things. And you know, it's really just a fun little like game that will take you about maybe 10 hours to beat, but there's a lot of depth in there if you really want to get into it. Like for me, I basically just stuck with a form that I liked, that had abilities that I liked, and tried to level it up as much as possible, and I was able to win. But if you really want to get into it, like, I think there's something like 20 some different forms across all three like stages of the monster. And each one has like their own unique ability and their own unique stat buffs and their own unique whatever. And you can level each form individually. I think the most I ever got was like level 20 something, but I'm pretty sure you can go much higher than that. So if you really are into like grinding and min-maxing and stuff like that, you can get like pretty deep into the game, but you don't have to, which is what I like. Like you can play it pretty much however you want. And if you are good enough with your character to like battle, then you can get through pretty much everything.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, I have to say, like, that sounds really interesting. Like, like I said, you totally like sold me on the game, but I'm actually checking out eBay listings,
It's
and turns out
expensive.
that's quite a hidden gem.
Yes.
Because even the cheapest, like, card-only copies are like 30 euros.
I have a cart-only copy that I found at GameStop. I don't even have a box copy. I have like, I found a little cart at GameStop, and that's how I bought it, because I had heard of it before, and I wanted to play it. But it really, like, honestly, for the price, like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable, like, fully recommending it because it is pricey. And you're not going to get, like, again, you might get, like, 8 hours out of it. Unless you really want to, like,
said, I mean,
sort of dig into it. But story-wise.
And there are ways to play these games without, you know, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I recommend, you know, all the shady stuff, but, like, you know, we can't pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
We can't pretend there aren't ways to play these games that don't involve the original card.
Absolutely. But what I would suggest is, like, if it sounds interesting, because it's really hard to, like, explain. I always pick games that are really hard to explain on here. I would say, like, check out, like, YouTube videos of it and see if it's, like, your cup of tea. The art style is also, like, very cartoony. It's not, like, it's not pixel art. It's not sort of like gritty like you'd expect, like maybe something like Metroid or Castlevania. Not like that at all. It's very like lighthearted and sort of, I think, maybe aimed towards a younger crowd, but it's pretty fun. I had a good time with it.
Cool, man.
Yep. And then the last
Anything
one.
else?
Yes, last one. Which I've been playing recently. I really wanted to finish it before today, but I wasn't able to. But I'm like this close to getting it done. Is 2064 Read-Only Memories.
Oh,
Which
I
I
want to
recently-
start this soon. I have the limited run Vita edition, and I really want to play that.
Yes, I got it. They were having a Golden Week sale on PSN, and I got it for $3, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I know, right?
digital only. But I started playing it immediately because the first time I heard about this was I was in New York with Ozzy and Paul had just gotten the PS4 version.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. And I was like immediately like, the art style of this, I could tell it's like very Blade Runner-y, Snatcher-y, so I definitely want to play this immediately. And it's really fun. Like, it's another point and click, but much easier. Like, you're not going to get stuck on any puzzles with this game. Like, as long as you're diligent and you, like, sort of click around a bit, you'll very easily like figure out every puzzle. But the like much like Grim Fandango, the appeal is in the story and the characters and everything like around that. So it's super fun and like
Cool, man.
The settings, the voice work, the music, like I really enjoyed all of it. I would say, Strilly, if you're looking to start it, I would say go for it. It's also not one that's going to take you a ton of time. There's even an achievement for beating the game without ever saving. So like if you really sat down and like only did like went from point A to point B doing what you're supposed to do, you'd probably beat it in an afternoon. I think I'm on the last chapter, which is the 5th chapter. But it's a trip, man. It's a journey. And there's like fun little side stuff to do too. There's like, there's arcade machines with like made up games that you can play and stuff like that.
Cool.
And there's one fun fact. If anybody is into the game Valhalla
Yes.
or VA11 Hall A, this bartending visual novel game, which I love dearly and which is really great. It has a character from Valhalla appear in the game.
Yep.
I
think, cause aren't those two games set in the same universe or something?
Yeah, those two companies, they just found out about each other and that they developed those games. And then they found out, hey, it's both like in some futuristic, neon vintage 80s aesthetics kind of university thing.
Yeah.
So they just came up with the idea, hey, why not have one character be in both games so that it can be linked together in some way.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they
man.
found it just, it's like a nice cameo. It's not like they planned it beforehand. It's just, it was something that came along while they developed both.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
a way better story
it's a
than
real
what I
cool
thought it actually
idea.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just sweet that they did that
Yeah.
because they
Like-
appreciated each other like that.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're into like Dennis was saying, like retro sci-fi, like if you're into Blade Runner, if you're into Snatcher and stuff like that, like this is must play. Like it's a sort of a very fun take on the Neo, it's set in Neo San Francisco. So it's like you're a journalist who like uncovers a mystery based around like one of your good friends who's gone missing and stuff like that. So it's sort of in that noir detective sort of vein, but very, I don't want to say lighthearted because there are dark elements to it, but it's very comedic in its writing and it's very like tongue in cheek. But also has like a very good narrative that'll keep you engaged throughout.
Cool, man.
That sounds amazing. This makes me want to play it earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have, man, with the amount of free time I've had recently, which is very little, I've just been working a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously like, working on the podcast and stuff like that. So free time is at a premium. And I knew you were playing this game.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I want to play it at the same time Arnie is so that we can experience it together.
I know.
But, then I would have nothing to talk about on the show because like I had to play something new and different in order to at least have something to talk about. So yeah, it's funny. Like I actually really did want to play it. And I didn't get around to it because like, we have this podcast as a hobby and now it's like my other hobby is a little bit affected by it. Not negatively, don't get me wrong, but it just means that, 2064 read-only memories might have to wait a little while.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes.
It's a darn shame. But that's...
No, it's not because we have a great show.
That's true. I think that's subjective.
Yeah.
But no, so that's pretty much what I have and haven't been playing. Like I've started a bunch of stuff. And it's funny because one thing I did want to say is when we were talking about the rub games on DS and we were talking about games that integrated like touch controls, I've been playing a lot of DS games recently and I have like a bunch of DS RPGs. and some of them are just like unplayable to me. Like, what was the game I tried to play the other day? Nights in the Nightmare. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this game, but
No.
again, this is another one I found at like GameStop for like $6, and I only have the cart for it, and I popped it in, and like I started trying to play this game, and I just have no idea how the controls work, and like there was a tutorial, and I still didn't understand like how the controls worked, and I'm just like, am I stupid? Like, how do I not understand how this works? And it's like, I looked it up online. It's just like a very weird system that they have, but there's so many like DS RPGs that like use the bottom touchscreen in such weird ways to like play games that I just cannot. Like the other one I tried was Blue Dragon Plus, and that one I had heard that it was a strategy game. So I was like, oh, that's going to be so cool. It's going to be like Fire Emblem. No, it's real-time strategy.
Okay.
And I was like, oh no, I can't play this. Cause it's like, you basically have to like scroll around the map and like click on each individual character and like click on where you want them to move. And then like click on what actions you want them to take. And I'm just like, this is too much for me to be like scrolling around this screen so hectically. So I could not handle it.
But there are like, for example, I mean, if you're looking for, it's funny that we're talking about games to look for the Nintendo DS. I mean, but in all seriousness, like if you want a real-time strategy game and it's super, super cheap, Age of Empires for the DS.
I played it and I loved it.
Really good. Yeah, man, that game, that's it, like really shockingly good game.
Yes. I bought that at a flea market and I was like, well, this is going to be terrible. And then I popped it in and I was like, I played through like 6 or 7 of the missions and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, Nintendo DS, man, the hottest new handheld.
There's so many, like, that's why I think it's really sad that GameStop's like shredded so many of those cases and manuals for those games. Because there are so many like weird, interesting games for the Nintendo DS that I still want to play that you just can't, like, it's so hard to find them now and they're so expensive. I remember because you had it, I wanted to play Darkspire. I've never seen it like out in the wild. And
Impossible.
I've always wanted to play it. Infinite Space is another one that looks super cool.
Same here.
Also incredibly
But
expensive.
at least Infinite Space, it actually got a re-release.
Oh, did it?
And and there's that one Canadian. So shout out to all our Canadian people, except Paul. But for some reason, like a bunch of Sega games, like that's actually, published by Sega, much like the, like Yakuza 1, 2, 3, and 4 got re-releases, through,
it's a
like,
Canadian
Video
retailer.
Game Plus?
Yeah,
I think it's like Video Game Plus or something like that. But yeah, like one of the biggest, like, Canadian video game stores, I believe. So it might still be available, but that's, Infinite Space is definitely like it's actually like the only Platinum game that I don't own.
Same for me.
Like one game that I really would like to play.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like it's very, very different, very original.
We should do an episode. I already say we, but I would like to be a guest on that one about the Nintendo DS because it's got a great library, a huge library, and it's got so many great titles that have been overlooked because many people thought
we should do an episode about Platinum games.
An episode I would like to be a guest on.
It sounds like your cat is getting excited about the Nintendo DS too, Dennis.
Oh, she seems to be excited about something at least, yeah. That's Zelda. Yeah, she is.
But
excited.
Aside from me, wistfully recalling every DS game that I want to own and can't, I think that's pretty much it for me as far as like what I've been playing.
Cool, man. Well, I guess we can wrap it up then, eh?
I think so. So as we always say, guys, please leave us a review and a rating. Here's the thing, and I did want to talk about this. So iTunes does this really stupid thing where they have iTunes stores like for pretty much every country, but reviews from different countries don't show up on the American iTunes store, just like American iTunes store reviews don't show up on international ones. So we really do have more reviews and ratings than show on our page, but they're just like in all these different countries.
That's just stupid.
I know it's frustrating, but so we'd like to as much as we can try to get reviews and ratings for our show, because it's important for iTunes to like push us on other people in their recommended feeds and get other people listening to our show. So if you don't do anything else for us, please leave us a rating and a review, hopefully a nice one, but we understand if it's not. But yeah, outside of that, I think that'll do it for this episode of the Region Free Gamers. My name is Arnie. I've been your host. Paul, where can we find you on the internet?
On Instagram, Pauls_Game Room.
Sweet. Strilly, where can we find you on the internet?
Also Instagram, it's Strilly Vanilli.
All right. And you have a couple podcasts that you also do on the side.
Well, yeah, I merged one of my podcasts into my other podcast because the topic was similar and it just didn't seem very logic anymore to keep them apart. So I only have the Pixel und Plastik podcast anymore, but it's in German. So if you have any German listeners, you might want to check it out.
We are number one in Germany. I'd like to.
I know that. Yes, since Polybits has been on the.
I'm really sorry, Dennis, but yeah, we are the most popular podcast in Germany.
That's okay, as long as I keep popping up as a guest from time to time.
Awesome.
That will definitely happen. And then you also have a band named Magma Waves, correct?
Correct.
Yes, which you should check out if you're into good fucking music.
And where we can find your band's music? Is it on Spotify?
It is on Spotify, on Bandcamp. Basically all the platforms that you need. Check it out. And we've got an Instagram too. It's Magma Waves.
Nice.
Thanks for mentioning it, for getting the word out. I know Ozzy is a fan. Ozzy bought our record.
I know. I've been listening to some tunes on Spotify as well, and I'm enjoying it. You guys do like really good work, and I mean, Dennis, you are a very talented drummer, if I do say so myself.
Thank you very much.
Masa, even though literally everybody who listens to this podcast probably already follows you, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram, and my handle is MasaCharvin09.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Who was
I had
that?
to take my influencer voice to the next level for this episode.
Please do the next podcast only in that voice.
Oh man, I want to hear that.
might just,
And you can find Region Free Gamers on Instagram, mainly at Region Free Gamers Podcast. We added that one right there for clarification, because some people didn't realize we did a podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah. You can also find us on Twitter at Region Free Gamer and on YouTube, where, actually, since Dennis is here, I know he loves this part, is where you can, take
I was looking forward to this.
where you can take that subscribe button and RKO it straight through a table. I was originally going to say put it in the cripple crossface, but I don't think I want to like do Chris Benoit stuff on the podcast.
Yeah, no.
It's actually a little late. You just did.
I know, that's true.
A Stone Cold Stunner on it.
We already did stunners. We did stunners. We did tombstone pile drivers. We done power bombs. Basically, just get as violent with the subscribe button as you possibly can, and then subscribe to us afterwards. And just check us
or else
out.
We're gonna have to go into more and more obscure wrestling.
I know.
moves.
I really. It's becoming hard. It's becoming.
I was
really
gonna
hard.
say, if I if I were to tell the listeners what they should do with the subscribe button, I would have said, please take that subscribe button and go take it in your right hand, grab it by the throat, go up to the third rope and choke slam it onto a barbed wired table
There you
next to the announcer.
go. See, we should just edit Dennis's one instead of mine. But yeah, guys, that is it for us today. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for all your support. And as always, this is the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast that is fluent in gaming. See you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.